Um, a police chase across Indiana and the Michigan borderline ends with the suspect being shot and killed. Um, in South Bend, Indiana, Indiana State Police say a man is dead after a police chase that crossed the Indiana-Michigan border ended out in a shootout. Michigan State Police began chasing a red Kia that fled from a traffic stop in Niles, Michigan, around 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Um, the Kia led police across the state line and headed south on State Road 933 in South Bend. Officers from Indiana joined the pursuit and followed the suspect into the South Bend area. Um, Now, near the intersection of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive and Marion Street, the Kia hit the vehicle of a South Bend police officer who was throwing out the stop sticks. Um, After hitting the police car, the man got out of the Kia and he ran on foot toward the St. Joseph River. And that's when shots were fired. Investigators haven't said if the shot was fired by the suspect or by the police. But a Michigan state trooper who was following the suspect in his patrol car went partially over an embankment, striking a tree, and the state police didn't say if the trooper was injured or not. Um, but after the shots were fired, police began a search warrant for the not search warrant, but search for the suspect, and they found him dead at the bottom of an embankment near the river. Now, the state police did not provide the man's name or age at the time, or say why he fled the initial traffic stop. But an autopsy was scheduled for Friday at Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Um, They did give his name eventually after the story was updated, and the guy's name was known as Joshua Ringel, and he was 32 of South Bend. Now, there was a female passenger in the Kia, but she was not injured. She was not injured or arrested, but there is no name on her yet. Um, if you're a military vet, they're encouraging you to apply for something called the Pact Act benefits, but you gotta do so by August 9th to qualify. So, a major health care and benefits expansion could impact thousands of veterans across the Hoosier State, but there is an important deadline coming up. Back in August of 2022, the Pact Act was passed, which expands the VA health care and the benefits for Vietnam, Gulf War, and post 9/11 era veterans that were exposed to toxic burn pits or Agent Orange and other toxic substances. Now, the Pact Act expands eligibility for some 200,000 Indiana veterans, according to the VA. In Marion County alone, the VA said that 15,000 veterans could now be eligible, and that includes many veterans who may have been denied benefits in the past. Um, Now, Gulf War Army vet Kelvin Wade recently applied for the benefits. He joined the Army right out of high school in 1987, and he served until 1995. And Wade spent a year and a half abroad. It was a very unique experience living in the desert, Wade smelled, but like many soldiers before him, a lot of the soldiers like Wade were exposed to toxic chemicals as he served, especially the burn pits, which many troops used to dispose of various waste. And he said we would burn it, he described, and we didn't think twice about it. We would just pour jet fuel and diesel fuel and set it on fire. Decades after serving, Wade said he began to notice certain things. He had some breathing issues. He realized that he was becoming fatigued easier, and it had an impact on his ability to exercise. Basically, he didn't have the energy to exercise a lot like he used to. And Wade at first said he did not know why he was having these problems. But he says, I'm thinking, and I'm still relatively young, and why am I experiencing these difficulties? And so I began to make some connections, he said. The Pact Act adds at least 20 more presumptive conditions for burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic chemicals. And what the Pact Act did is, it said, look for these 23 conditions you no longer have to prove a nexus, said Mark Tunry with the VA. And being in theater was enough. Now, attorney urges vets who were previously denied in the past to now reapply. It's very important for veterans to know, even if you've been denied in the past, that you need to refile your claim. But there's no way the VA has to go back and re-adjudicate these claims. Now, attorney said it's important for the veterans to apply, even if they're not sure that they're eligible. Just as it's importantly, he urges vets to apply, by no later than August 9th, because claims filed by then will be eligible for up to a year's worth of retroactive compensation going back a year. Now, if you had applied a year ago and you were denied and you reapply now, the back pay could be $10,000 depending on your level of service connection. It can be more than that though too. I mean, for some veterans in the community, that's life-changing money for them. Now, Kelvin Wade already applied and said he is thrilled about the impact it will have, but he wants others to have just the same. I'll just say simply this: take advantage of this opportunity now. It's important that you take care of yourself and for your family who are also dependent on you. But if the applicants do not submit a completed application by August 9th, the VA said you can submit that you could submit an intent to file by that date. As long as an application or intent to file is submitted by August 9th, eligible veterans will receive that back pay. And there's also a number to call. There's also a number for the veterans to call if they want to get this done. A furniture company called Polywood just announced that they're laying off workers. Now, Polywood Furniture is laying off a number of workers. They just announced that they're laying off 200. Polywood Furniture in Syracuse broke the news to employees on Tuesday. There's about 1,000 employees at that particular location. After speaking with Polywood's director of HR, he explained seasonal work is not uncommon for the outdoor furniture industry. Now, Polywood manufactures outdoor furniture from recycled materials. According to Ryan Zimmerman, the senior director of human resources, this industry is very seasonal. According to a human resources representative at Polywood, 90% of their employees are promoted internally, and for many, the seasonal work leads to full-time roles. And that being said, Polywood employs a lot of part-time workers. Now, Zimmerman says that the definition of part-time at Polywood is solely dependent on the supply and the demand for the furniture that they are making. Now, WSBT 22 spoke with two former employees with very different opinions on the layoffs. One employee said, like I said, I had no issues. It was fun to work there, and he enjoyed working there. And actually, that is the only job that they ever had that they enjoyed working in, and you know what I mean. It wasn't breaking my back. It was a good job, said Larry Negret, who's a former Polywood employee. And he basically said there's no bad blood between them. Although Negret and Zimmerman know part-time work may be temporary, some former employees think the layoffs were a bit premature. Some of the employees were expecting to work well into November like they did last year. And basically, a lot of people said they felt like it was a slap in the face. And I mean, hire me for a year and 4 months and now you're no good to me no more? Asked Misty Stanley, who's a former employee. WSBT spoke with other members of HR and they mentioned that the number was less than 200 layoffs. That's what they claim anyway. But this number included seasonal workers and other workers on staff too. Now, the one guy, Negret, is not upset with Polywood, but he appreciates their transparency through this process and would work there again if given the chance. I do plan to go back, and he says, I have talked to a couple of supervisors there, and they were like, as soon as we are hiring again, come back. Mention our name, and as soon as we see your application, we'll let you know. And he basically says, I do plan on going back. I liked it, said the great. But MSBT also spoke with Dave Wilkinson, the Syracuse town manager. But he said that he has not heard directly from the company regarding the layoffs in itself. But, you know. A stalled freight train causes problems for the American community. In Hammond, Indiana, the railroad industry has been under intense scrutiny since February because of the train derailment that happened back in the train derailment and fire that happened back in East Palestine, Ohio. Now, recently, Americans have been speaking about the inconvenience in stalled freight trains that and what they cause in their daily lives, sometimes having deadly consequences. Now, people across the country have spoken with news stations about the life and death challenges that they say that these train companies are forcing them to endure. Now, in Hammond, Indiana, a small community has been dealing with the blocked railroad crossings daily. The stalled trains have forced families to make tough decisions as part of their everyday life. When trains run through Hammond, it is likely that they will idle on the tracks for nearly 30 minutes, if not longer, blocking the only crossroad within a mile radius. Now you could see them sitting there for 15, 20, 30 minutes, as long as over a day, and that's fucking ridiculous, Hammond resident Lamira Sampson said. These long days have become a regular part of the community's daily routine, residents had told news stations, especially for the neighborhood's youngest residents. Now, but a recent report by ProPublica documented the moments that children had to climb over a stalled train track to make it to school on time. It's a choice, Sampson, a mother, said that she grapples with every time that she hears a train whistle. Now, however, Norfolk Southern told News Nation in a statement that it had not yet had any recent issues at this crossing, but we continue to work closely on this issue with the local elected officials, and we have not yet recently had an issue at this crossing. But when Sampson sees a train car approach, a whole set of questions pop in her head. Basically, we're like, oh fuck, it stopped. It's like, how am I going to do this every morning? Am I going to let him stay home? Am I going to walk over there to see exactly where the train is to see if I can get around, or what? Now, this internal struggle is shared by thousands of other Americans across the country. Now, research revealed that these trains impact smaller blue-collar communities, and it's only gotten worse in recent years. Now, according to the Department of Transportation, there have been more than 24,000 reports of blocked crossings in the U.S. over the last year alone. Nearly 30% of these trains blocked these crossings for up to 6 hours at a time, and 18% of the blocked crossings had prevented first responders from getting to the emergency situations in a timely manner. In some cases, blocked railroad crossings even end in tragedy and litigation. Back in Oklahoma, Linda Bird is fighting for justice for her husband of nearly 50 years. Gene Bird died in 2020 after suffering a heart attack at their home in Noble. The family said the EMTs responded to the 911 call, but they could not get to him in time because of an idling freight train. And by the time the emergency responders were able to make it to the Bird's home, Jane was dead. Now, one mother in Leggett, Texas, is fighting Union Pacific Railroad after her 11-month-old child died. Monica Franklin told News Nation that her son, Katwan Franklin, was unresponsive after she put him down for a nap. She called 911, but a stalled freight train delayed the aid he needed. And basically, Katwan died in the hospital 3 days later. In a statement from Union Pacific, the company said it was in the early phases of litigation discovery and was investigating the overall factual timeline of events, including whether the presence of a train had any impact on the first responders' ability to revive Katwan. Our hearts go out to Katwan's family on this tragic situation, but we understand the impact blocked crossings have for community residents and work diligently to reduce the amount of time that trains occupy the crossing. Now, I wish that I could say that was the first time and only time that the ambulance has not been able to get to people on the other side of the tracks, said Denise Mail. And it's not true. This happens over and over. Many of the residents impacted by these stalled trains aren't just living with dangerous disruptions, but they're trying to hold these railroad companies accountable and to make real change make real change happen. They get by with it because there's actually no recourse to hold them responsible, Mail said. Now, Mail runs a Facebook group in St. Clair County, Alabama, chronicling her and her neighbors' struggle of resolving the issues that trains bring to their area. She said that these trains hold them hostage, blocking their only way out of the neighborhood. Now, her Facebook group is to keep pressure on the politicians and keep pressure on the train companies, and to make sure that their feet are still being held to the fire. Mail said that little progress has been made to remedy the stalled train situation in her hometown, and it echoes the same sentiments experienced in Hammond, Indiana. Both communities were promised an alternate route around, and I was like, finally, that we're getting somewhere, but we're going to get all the solved. Mail said this route still has not been built, and they still have not started on it yet. Now, many Americans from small towns across the country are calling on the federal government to hold these railroad companies accountable. And the way I look at it, railroads don't look out for the residents; they just look out for themselves. And many railroads have been sued and lost lawsuits over this continuous blocking, and the laws need to fucking change. But there are currently no federal laws or rules pertaining to blocked crossings. However, some in power are trying to change that. Now, lawmakers in Washington have promised action, but now the effort could be in trouble. A bipartisan bill drafted in the wake of the East Palestine train derailment has been stalled, and some Senate GOP leaders believe that the current version of their bill puts too many regulations on the rail industry. Um, Excuse me. Um, but that is it for today's news around anywhere. So basically, if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And go ahead and leave a comment, let me know what you think. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And just for little as a few bucks a video or a month, your donation can help go a long way, and thanks for listening.